Welcome to Smash Metafiction. This week, we unearth the pieces of our favorite old stories and stitch them together into a brand new abomination that we like to call Collaboratory. I'm your host, Claire Mulcairn. Joining me this week are Dan Mulcairn.
Hello, everyone.
And our two guest lab assistants this week, Jeff Eckman.
Hello.
And Ryan Kasmiskie.
Hi.
So these two have a podcast called No One Can Know About This, where they play through every Final Fantasy game that exists, sometimes for periods of time that are far too long. And everything is recorded. You get to hear all of the conversations that they're having as the game's going on. And sometimes because they end up going into the middle of the night, they are all sorts of very strange conversations that have nothing to do with Final Fantasy and are nonetheless very fun to listen to.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. We have fun doing it, for the most part.
We record our pain and then have a lot of fun turning that into something that we hopefully people would find entertaining.
It does sound kind of like the sort of podcast you would get if you, made a really ill-advised monkey's paw wish. It's like, man, I wish I could play more video games, you know?
We were just talking about that where Ryan said, they told me not to do the black magic, where I can play video games for my life.
Yeah, now I'm looking around going I need something that isn't video games, but that's another story.
The episode that we're doing this week, for those who have not heard Collaboratory before, the way it works, everyone here has brought a character from a pre-existing work of fiction, and then each one of us has also brought a side dish in the form of a setting, a goal, a MacGuffin, or a genre, because this is a big old potluck. Everyone has brought all of their ingredients, and we're going to just open them all up and see what we got, and see what sort of weird abomination of a story we can build together. So yes, half laboratory, half potluck. It's a mixed metaphor, but you know what? It works. So... yeah, it's time to open the Tupperwares and unwrap the foil and see what everyone brought this week. Who wants to go first? Jeff, Ryan?
I'll go first. I brought Hank Kingsley from The Larry Sanders Show. If you guys know The Larry Sanders Show at all.
I have not seen that. That is an entirely new one. You're going to have to explain this. Oh my God.
Well, it's the funniest show maybe ever written. And it was done by Gary Shandling in the 90s on HBO. It's a show about a talk show host who's incredibly self-involved. And this sidekick character named Hank Kingsley was based loosely on Ed McMahon from The Old Tonight Show. And his whole thing is that he's so self-absorbed and so selfish. He cares so much about how he's perceived that he'll inevitably do something that will ruin the perception of him. So he's like...
Got it.
He cares so much about being loved by others and being perceived as good that he winds up doing incredibly selfish things.
That is a really good archetype. I like that a lot. Ryan, what did you bring for a character this week?
I brought Dale Gribble from King of the Hill, who I mentioned more people will know, but for those who don't, he's a conspiracy theorist, sort of nut. But his main deal is that he has a good heart and good intentions, but he's also he thinks he's smarter than everyone when he's really not. So he's always piecing together elaborate, paranoid sort of theories about what's happening around him, even though usually nothing is happening at all.
I'm very excited about this. I will go next because the character that I have brought is Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, nice.
For those of you who are not aware, Krang is an evil alien warlord from Dimension X who was banished from his own dimension, and in that process, he also lost his body. I don't know if more details of this are ever explained, but for some reason, he's a talking brain who pilots around like a little tiny robot scooter most of the time, and he has dreams for reclaiming his former glory. Eventually, he does get a robot body and stuff, but the archetype that I want for this is the once great and powerful being that has been cursed or transformed into something tiny and adorable. And if there doesn't end up being magic, I'm fine with them just being demoted, as long as it was really dramatic from CEO to janitor, basically, trading places or whatever. And another example of this would be Kuzco from Emperor's New Groove or Potato GLaDOS from Portal 2, that kind of thing. And so I'm fine with him being transformed before the movie or during the movie. He can be transformed back at the end. He cannot be transformed back at the end. He can learn a lesson. He cannot. I don't care, as long as it's that, powerful thing trapped in a little adorable thing.
Yeah.
So,
All right, well then I guess I will go. The character that I've brought is Wildflower from the video game Jade Empire.
Oh, I'm not familiar. I never
You
played
have
Jade
to
Empire.
explain
Yeah.
that to me.
Yeah, okay, so Jade Empire is a game made by BioWare in the years before they did Mass Effect and Dragon Age. So Jade Empire is a fantasy game, but it's based on Chinese mythology and culture instead of like European fantasy and culture. Wildflower in the game is a very young peasant girl, and in the storyline, she died and then was brought back to life as a host for two very powerful spirits, one of whom is good and one of whom is evil. And so she still has like a sense of herself. She does not remember that she is dead, nor does she know that she is the host to two very powerful opposing spirits. Like in the game, basically, if you have her in your party, she'll just be like walking around as this little girl. But as soon as you get into a fight, she transforms into a giant monster and has no memory of that happening.
That's really great.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out how to boil her down into an archetype, and I think I'm going to go with someone who is young and or innocent and or naive, who ends up getting a lot of power or influence that they aren't necessarily like prepared for or ready for. And I was trying to think of like other characters that could fit this archetype, and weirdly I feel like the main character from Blank Check is kind of this way.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about Blake Snyder and his beat sheet, this is the
Sure.
movie of the man.
Yeah, written by Blake Snyder.
That's right.
Oh wow.
Blank Check, yeah.
That's strangely appropriate. But yeah, so that's Wildflower.
Now it's time to run down the side dishes. So, Jeff, what did you bring this week for your side dish?
I brought a genre, and it's the man losing his mind genre, like Liam Neeson's Unknown, or like there's a bunch of other ones like this where you come back. I think Fugitive might be, and it's like you're talking to your wife, and the wife is like, "I've never seen this man before in my life," and it's like, "What do you mean? We've been married for 30 years."
Oh, okay. This, like the game.
Right, the game.
Yeah, the game,
like
exactly.
The game.
Or Flight Plan.
Right,
Like,
or
that was the
Flight-
one where
yeah,
her daughter disappears.
That's
on
right,
the-
and
okay.
everybody around you is telling you one thing, but you know there's
Right.
this other truth.
Yeah, it's like 1/5 of the episodes of Twilight Zone, basically.
Okay,
Yes,
that's really good.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. All right, so Ryan, what did you bring this week for your side dish?
I brought a MacGuffin, which is the Triforce from The Legend of Zelda. Well, what I like about this, more than just being like the ultimate solution to whatever the conflict is that in the middle of a story, you can elevate it from like you're fighting a bad guy to, and the reason you're doing it is because when the world was created, like it all goes, it elevates everything to like a ridiculous plane of just stakes.
Okay, so it's like the idea is you're discovering that you're a part of a much greater sort of cosmic
Exactly,
tale.
The
And it's-
explanation
okay.
of how the world and humanity came to be.
And how this is like the point where it comes together, and you're suddenly at the knife point of like a conflict that's happened for eons. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Got it. Okay, so I will go next. The thing that I had to bring this week was the goal, and I decided to bring the goal from the movie Big Daddy, which is I decided to win someone over via an outrageous display or scheme. In that, it was taking care of a child. It doesn't have to be that in this. It occurs to me now, another example of something that works well with this is like Mulan, where it's like, I'll prove them all wrong. Like, and you have like some giant ill-advised, like, I'm going to show that person that I'm worth something. And Dan, your last, what did you bring for your side dish?
So I brought the setting, and I've brought the setting of the apartment building from the M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Lady in the Water.
Oh,
That's so great. Why don't you tell us about it?
This apartment building is made up of the most ridiculously cartoonish and broadly drawn caricatures of regular human beings. There's one apartment that's just like filled with this big Latino family. There's one guy who lives in the apartment who's decided to just work out one side of his body. So one side of his body is super buff and the other side of his body is like really scrawny. There's a guy living there who's an author who's going to write a book that's going to change the world. The superintendent ends up getting involved in this weird supernatural plot. So boiling it all down, what I want this to be is a group of very different and diverse people living in a very small area together. So like it could be an apartment building, it could be like a neighborhood or a small town, depending on like how far we want to go in like a genre direction. We could go with like, a colony ship or like a refugee camp. Yeah, something where there's like a very diverse community living in close proximity to each other.
The next step we have is the log line. So in the log line, we're going to brainstorm different ways that we can try to fit all of these pieces together. And then the place that we want to get to in the end is a single sentence, high concept pitch for a movie that you could like sell in an elevator to an executive. For example, one that you guys will know very well, in an episode of No One Can Know About This, they came up with their own high concept for a movie. Do you guys remember what that was?
We've had a few.
couple.
Actually.
Oh yeah, I was thinking Bull in a China
Bull in a
Shop.
China Shop
Yeah,
was
the
what
bull
I
in the
had
China
a feeling,
shop is the main one. Yeah.
Right, because that's like, it's a very much one of these 90s high concept sort of movies. So yeah, it's
About a bull who just wants to spin fine china, or he cares about his china he wants to open a china shop. Duh. That was what the original we wound up coming up with so many ideas for this thing that I've lost the original premise at this point.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen here. Yeah, so that's what we're trying to get. Just a one sentence high concept pitch that you can sell to somebody. So what are you guys thinking for these pieces so far? Something jumping out with you guys as a story you're already seeing of what should be where, or is there something you guys want to solve up front? What do you think?
Well, so we have the Triforce, and then we also have Wildflower, who is a person who has come into possession of some sort of thing that's kind of above their station or like beyond their understanding. Those are probably two pieces that we can fit together. Like we can say that there's some sort of primal force of some type that this young innocent person has come into possession of.
Yeah, I could see that.
Trying to understand a little bit exactly the goal. Is it kind of the distillation of it like Mrs. Doubtfire, where it's like you're doing this ridiculous thing to prove to your wife that you can take care of your kids or something? Like that's what it is.
Yeah, it's something like that. Or like I said, I think another one I settled on was Mulan, like prove to your family that you can do something right, like that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like everyone thinks you're a screw up and you have to like, he tries to adopt a kid to be like, see, I'm not a screw up, but then like screws it up.
So what would Wildflower maybe do that would like, because if that's going to be the protagonist,
the alternative would be that like this could be I felt like Dale is the one who needs to prove everybody wrong, right? Isn't that like
yes?
Well, the thing with Dale is that he's usually too wrapped up in some conspiracy to see what's right in front of his face. But yeah, he would be the one to prove somebody wrong. Also, I could see Hank Kingsley really needing to win somebody back or prove to, that to me seems like the fit for that.
The core of his character is like wanting people to like him.
That's
right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That seems to fit perfectly.
I feel like if we're going this route, Krang should be some sort of all-powerful cosmic being who's like trapped inside of a little animal or something, right?
That's what I was thinking, is Krang is the connection to like the broader everything, because he's beyond this world. Like he knows way more than anybody else should know.
Yeah, so the other thing that I think we kind of need to figure out the connection to is the man losing his mind genre.
Yeah.
Which to me, this seems like the sort of thing where either this is like a big conspiracy, and so our protagonist begins to realize the depths of what's going on, or we could say that the Triforce has this sort of power where when you start, like, maybe he like taps into it for a bit, and that like has some dramatic effect on the world around him and how people see him, you know, like maybe he erases himself from everyone's memory for a bit.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Krang ends up getting a hold of the Triforce and like uses it to change the world so that he's in charge, and like our protagonist is the only person who remembers the world the way it used to be.
That's really cool.
Right.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only downside is we need a person who doesn't believe the other person. And I feel like Dale believes too easily. So I don't know.
Well, that's the thing, is I would say it would become kind of a buddy comedy then, because he would be going crazy and Dale would be like, I believe you. And then he would make him go even crazier because he would just keep pushing him to dig.
Yeah, like a devil on his shoulder.
Okay, so the only thing that we're not going to have then is a person who he's trying to impress.
Well, I had the idea that Hank could somehow be related to the Wildflower character, whether it's his kid or whatever.
If that's Hank Kingsley's daughter, maybe like they're a part of a lineage that's related to the Triforce that goes back to like being the first man.
Oh my god.
I don't know if we want both Krang and Wildflower to be the connection to the cosmic, because I feel like Krang's the villain, right? But I don't know.
Here's the thing with the Triforce is we can split it into 3 pieces, so each of them could have one, and then the goal could be like a race for the last one in the third act.
It could be the sort of thing where like Krang is this ancient entity, either like someone who sought out the Triforce in the past, or is, like some kind of cosmic being who's connected to it. And so like our kind of inciting incident is Wildflower using this power that she doesn't know she has, and that draws Krang's attention to her. He's going after Wildflower in order to get the Triforce from her so that he can reclaim his lost power. Like maybe he had used the Triforce in ages past.
Okay, I got something.
Yeah, please.
So Krang is like trapped in the body of a cat or whatever. He's living in an apartment complex, and he's on his little computer as a cat trying to track down like descendants of these various lines. And after he does, he like manipulates things in their life like butterfly effect style to get them to move into this apartment complex. And
He's pulling all the strings.
Pulling the strings. And the thing that Hank figures out that he's trying to convince people of is that the cat is smart and knows what's going on and is a puppet master. He discovers that the cat can talk or something and is like trying to like expose. He's like, the cat is trying to make everyone move here so that it can bring about the apocalypse or whatever. And it's like, and so that's like the man losing his mind aspect of it. And his daughter is one of the people who's special who can alter reality. Hank himself cannot, but she's like the latest one because maybe she like got it from her mom or something or whatever. But like they need to get people from this lineage like and reunite them together, and then that'll bring about the apocalypse. How do we feel about that?
I think it's great. If we can work Hank getting jealous of the fact that he's not the special one in at some point in this story, that would be perfect.
Yeah, how do we work in the win someone over via an outrageous display or scheme?
He tells his daughter that the cat can talk, and the daughter doesn't believe him. And he decides to go on a quest to prove that the cat is like a mastermind who's pulling the strings and like do like an investigative thing in order to win her over to prove to her that he's not crazy.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. So it's kind of a conspiracy theory movie where the center of the conspiracy is an evil entity in the body of a cat who's been manipulating various people's lives in order to bring about the end of the world.
Is that high concept enough for you?
It's pretty high concept.
I mean, what's the thread of clues that he's following? Because I think he's like, the first thing can be that cat can talk. And then the last line of the clues is, if these three bloodlines are reunited in one place, it will bring about the apocalypse or whatever. How is he pursuing that mystery? Is he discovering an ancient hidden passageways in the apartment complex that like lead to an underground labyrinth? Is he like digging up court documents? Like what is...
I mean, I feel like Dale could give him his first clues after Dale has like seen him wandering around the apartment talking crazy to like the other residents through the blinds, you know, like slip him a note under the door, like meet me at the McDonald's at 1:30 in the morning.
I'm trying to think if this is like a movie though. What's the equivalent that we have for someone trying to pursue and solve a conspiracy in this way in movie form? I just can't think of another example similar to this.
One idea that I had is if we presume that this cat is influential enough to like get all these different people to move in, maybe there's a cult around the Triforce or around Krang himself. It's Hank and Dale trying to figure out the truth behind like what's going on. But like the main action and their main force of opposition on a scene to scene basis are these like cultish figures who keep crawling out of the woodwork and like chasing them down or pursuing them or like fighting them. You know, they need to escape from this force that's like trying to bring about this thing that the cat is at the center of.
You have toxic plasmosis?
Yeah, toxoplasmosis, yeah.
That he uses that to mind control people. That's like when you're around cat poop, it like the spores get in your brain and it can like affect your behavior and stuff. The idea that like there's some people who live in the apartment complex that are working for the cult and others that aren't, and figuring out who is and who is not in on it is part of it. Like, it's kind of like The Thing, like who can you trust in this ensemble cast and who can't you? Who has the cat already gotten to and who hasn't he? Like that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think that really leans into the weird people that live in this apartment angle of the movie.
Sounds good.
I think there's going to be a lot of fun in proving that a cat is super intelligent and then the cat constantly proving to the outside observer that it's just a cat.
So a sort of cat and mouse game.
If you will.
How about this? Like, yeah, he's like filming the cat covertly and trying to get it to prove that it's smart.
Right, and it keeps like only peeing on the rug and, you know, or in the kitty litter or whatever. Cats.
Okay, I think that's a good enough like fun and games that I can get on board with. I know what this movie's going to be.
Right.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So I think the one sentence pitch is, after a man thinks that he catches a neighborhood cat talking, he seeks to prove everyone in his apartment complex to prove to his daughter that he isn't crazy.
I have a general question. Does Wildflower know that she has this power yet? Or does Hank kind of discover through the conspiracy that she does?
That would make sense because, like, in my mind, she's like a very grounded person. Like, she's all about the real, which is like why he has to try so hard to convince her of this crazy thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we should reveal at some point that she has this power, but I don't think it's a thing that she starts off knowing that she has.
Okay.
That brings us to our next section. We are at the beat sheet. In this, we are going to work through an abbreviated version of the beat sheet from Blake Snyder's book, Save the Cat. He advocates 15 steps. We do 12 because we don't have that much time on our hands. So our 12 steps are opening image, theme stated, catalyst, break into act 2, B story, fun and games, midpoint, bad guys close in, all is lost, break into act 3, finale, and closing image. We are going to start off with the opening image. We are going to meet our main characters, figure out who they are and what they want. They should be in a relatively stable situation, but there should also be something in their life that needs fixing, and they should probably also need to learn some kind of lesson.
I was thinking Hank signing the lease at the apartment building while the cat looks down at him innocuously. We could do that and use the scene to like set up whatever his situation is, why he moved here, what he thinks about his daughter.
Yeah, maybe his daughter's like feeding the cat and they're like, and the guy's like, oh, that cat's just like a stray. He lives in the apartment complex. He just kind of walks around and belongs to everybody, whatever. And she's like, oh, it's so cute. And the cat like gives side eye at Hank, and he's like, is that cat looking at me weird? And then just like walks away. So
yeah.
One thing that I'm thinking is, because we want to set up this situation where Hank feels like he needs to convince his daughter that he's not imagining things, could we potentially say that like maybe he recently was divorced from his wife and she cited that like she suspected that maybe he had some like mental issues as the reason for divorce. So he kind of starts off with a little bit of like a chip on his shoulder, a need to like prove his sanity to other people, just kind of like as a baseline.
Great idea. I also would love the idea if he had started telling his daughter like, look, you're special, you have special abilities, and his wife was like, what are you putting in her mind? Like, what?
It could be interesting if maybe he had like in his past he thought he had superpowers at like brief periods of time, but nobody believed him.
That's what I mean. If like his wife was like, oh, you're having another episode, our daughter shouldn't be around this.
Right, but I like the idea that no one else has ever seen evidence, and he doubts it himself. He's like mentioned it, but then he also doesn't believe he does right now. He doesn't actively think he has powers. He's convinced himself he was just like seeing things, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is he's arrived back at a place where he's like, I've had weird thoughts before, but now I'm doing great. And this cat starts to, he's, whatever the cat does, he slowly starts to go like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it could be the sort of thing where like people from this bloodline at a certain age start like developing these little superpowers. And so like he's aged out of it, but there was a period in his life where he would see weird things that no one else would see.
And he never understood it or got a handle on it.
Right. And so like now Wildflower is approaching that same age.
We're probably going to have like the montage of him meeting all the different neighbors. So how do you think we are introduced to Dale? Like, does he enter the apartment? Are they like going around and they stumble upon him? What is he doing when they meet him? Like,
here's my pitch. He brings him over like an edible arrangement or whatever to be like neighborly, but also it's off-putting. And Dale is like, I don't accept outside food into my apartment. No offense.
I love the idea that like Hank goes over to Dale's apartment and he sees that Dale has stockpiled giant piles of asbestos.
Right.
They removed these from the walls of the apartment building years ago, but I know why. It's because these blocked the surveillance.
Yeah.
But no, you can't fool Dale.
He smells it in and just goes like, smell that power. That power of privacy. Bring it into your nostrils.
Do we want to maybe come up with 2 or 3 other supporting characters? Because we want to do the like, are these people innocent or are they cultists later on? And I want to, so do you guys want to like have like some other high concept for weird people who could live in an apartment building?
See, I was thinking we could sort of throw out a little bit of a red herring at some point and make him think that it's something other than a cult that's going on.
Okay.
We could have this like burly Russian guy who never talks to anyone and is always like looking around really shifty-eyed. And so like Hank maybe at some point thinks that this guy is like a Soviet spy.
Okay.
Right, just someone like as menacing as possible.
Yeah, that's kind of like a trail of breadcrumbs that he can follow to nowhere.
I had an idea of the like slightly like overly sexual spiritualist, like a kind of person who's always like, oh, how are you doing today? Like, how's your heart? And then they pry in like intimately, but they're really into yoga and new age content.
But they're also kind of goth.
There's something creepy about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No concept of personal space.
Always offering like to give you massages.
I just like the idea of like an old lady who like maybe is like the gossip of the complex. She's always like peering out from behind her shades, spreading rumors about people.
Has binoculars,
I like
right?
that.
Yeah, exactly. Has binoculars.
I want to have at least like one that's like a family, so we can just like have a bunch of throwaway characters, but they're all kind of one unit, you know? Like we could make the overly sexual spiritualist into like a couple.
Yeah, they could be overly like so
overly
much
friendly
PDA
and like,
And they're
that
friendly
you're
with
like-
each other, and you're like, what am I getting into by being around these people?
and like when they hang out, they like put their hand on your hand, and you're like, are they trying to like, what are they? What are their
Right. If they
intentions?
invite you over for dinner, you walk away going like, were we about to have sex? Like, what
Yeah,
was
exactly.
that? I think we could also have just like the white bread American family that like right under the surface you feel like there's this like gothic tension of like nobody speaking out of turn.
Sounds good. We'll do white bread American family.
I don't know where this idea might come in, but like maybe there's something about like this apartment building and who actually owns the building, and maybe at some point we can reveal that the cat technically is the in name owner of this building.
Oh yeah.
I really like the idea that acquiring this apartment was all part of the cat's plan. He became the pet of the previous owner.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it got to the point where like he altered the original owner's will so that the cat gets the apartment upon the owner's death, and then he kills the
Right.
owner.
Yeah, that's really great. So why don't we have the cat be named like Mr. Whatever? But it's like
Right.
but no one's ever seen
No one's
Mr.
ever
Whatever.
seen Mr.
Like,
Whatever, exactly, and it turns
Yeah.
out that's Nibbles, Mr. Nibbles.
The one that came to me was Mr. Macintosh from Blank
Oh,
Check.
well, there you go.
perfect.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. What do you guys want his name to be?
Something cat-like, something that like works as a
Oh.
name of a cat. Like some people call him Mr. Mittens, but it's like Mr. John Mitten. Like, I don't know.
Mr. Paul Whiskers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Dan, what are you thinking for a cat word name? Do you have any or
I mean,
anybody?
well, okay, if we're playing off of Blank Check, I think his name has to be Mr. Smith for Granny Smith, you know, because it's like
Oh,
Macintosh.
I
and
like
Granny
that.
Smith,
Yeah,
so-
Yeah.
Mr. Delicious.
Mr.
Mr.
Mr. Red Delicious.
Okay, for our theme stated, who is going to state the theme and what is going to be? Because the way it works is whatever the big message is going to be in this story, someone is either going to state the theme or they will state the exact opposite of the theme, and the events of the movie are going to prove them either right or wrong. What is our theme?
I do feel like Dale is a great guy to say the theme because he's somebody who usually can't see the truth in front of him and says like the missed point.
I think he speaks in proclamations a lot, so yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The decision you make is do you follow your insane, lonely path towards truth, or do you, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I kind of like that. It's like, you know, the road to truth is a lonely one, but like if you're on it, then you gotta walk it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You can't deny the call.
Don't look away.
Of,
Yeah, like
of something like
it's like
this.
Plato's cave. Like, don't look away from the fire of knowledge. Allow your eyes to be burned by it.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Now, is our main character going to save a cat?
Well, yeah, he has to save Krang.
I mean, we have
that's
a
the cat that he
though
saves.
in the fucking story. It's so hard not
Yeah.
to literally go for it.
I think that Hank saving the cat also coincides with the catalyst. It's like he saves
Yeah.
the cat, and in so doing, realizes that there's something going on.
I like
with
that the cat says thank you,
Yeah.
and then the cat like gets a look on its face like, oh shit.
Yeah, that's
Like,
what causes the catalyst.
What is the thing that he saves him for? Like, what's the events that lead up to the cat being in danger?
There's a few obvious ways that we could go about it. Like maybe some of the kids from the white bread family are like tormenting the cat.
Like, of course, the son is a sociopath or something.
Yes.
What are they doing to the cat?
I mean, they could be trying to swing it around by its tail or set it on fire. And they could even be doing it for the right reasons, but it doesn't look
What is
like
the
that.
right
No,
reasons?
They know. Like, this cat has
Oh,
been trying
right,
to
duh.
fuck with their family.
Well, yeah, I like the idea that it would be something like the cat sneaks into my room at night and it watches me or
Yeah,
something like that.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
And-
something that sounds crazy.
Maybe like a slightly more specific, they try to get the cat to be on the top of like a ceiling fan and then turn the ceiling fan on to get like that YouTube video.
No, I like the idea that like the sociopaths are basically like amoral YouTubers. I think that's delightful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to get those views.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, so it's like one of those Rube Goldberg machines, but at the end, like the cat's tail is wrapped on something and it's gonna like throw it like a catapult, and
Yes.
like it's like a candle lit and it makes like a ball fall, and like at the end that's what's gonna happen. And Hank comes across in the middle and is like running and trying to stop the Rube Goldberg machine, but keeps on like setting it forward, and then at the very last minute he pulls the cat out before it gets flung by the
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, you ruined our video, like.
I feel like I can imagine him seeing it from upstairs, like from a window,
Yeah.
and seeing
Yes.
them initiate the first thing.
Right.
And as he's running, we get shots of like the mallet hits a ball that like leads to this thing, and this cat is like yowling on the ground.
And the mallet hits the ball like, and it match cuts to like his feet hitting the floor. Like
exactly, yeah.
He like tries to use the elevator, but it's not working. He's like mashing the button, so he just like turns and starts sprinting down the stairs.
Yeah,
Goldberg machine takes like forever.
The layout of the apartment, because I think it's going to matter in the movie. I like it being the way it is in Lady in the Water, where it's like a big U. So it's like there's a courtyard in the middle, and everyone can see everybody else's front door at all times, and you can like see into each other's windows and stuff like that. Cool. So that is our catalyst. And then he says, thank you. Break into Act 2. The main character makes a choice and crosses the threshold, leaving behind the normal world and entering the topsy-turvy world of Act 2. So what are we thinking for our break into Act 2 scene?
Now I think it should be Hank goes to Dale and is like, what do you know about that cat? And Dale's like, let me tell you about that cat.
Or I feel like he would even be like, we can't talk here.
Right.
Yeah, I think he should go to his daughter first. And then he's like, no, I have to do it. And then he goes to talk to Dale. Because we want like the quest where he's like, oh, I got to prove her wrong. And then he goes to talk to her.
Should his daughter come to him and he's like frazzled and she's like, are you doing okay? And he's like, no, I'm fine. Not seeing any, because he's trying to like not be crazy.
Yeah, his
right?
initial reaction would be, this is happening again. Like my craziness has come back. But then he needs something that like proves to him he's not crazy. This isn't a relapse of whatever he experienced before. It's a new real thing.
I like the idea that maybe the daughter was there and he thought she was within earshot. And so how about he like, it's not like he would go and tell her it happened, but he turns, he's like, did you hear that? And then she's like, hear what? And he's like, did you hear the cat talk? And then she's like, no. Did you?
And he's like,
and then,
yes,
of course not.
The metaphorical cat is out of the bag. And then she's like, okay, Dad, whatever. And then Lee's like, no, I didn't hear it. Like, and then so he goes to Dale. How do I like about that?
I like that.
I also was thinking, instead of maybe going to Dale, what if Dale was watching this whole exchange with his daughter from a window and Hank is at home trying to decompress and he gets like a mysterious note.
Oh, so Dale comes to him.
So that it's like an invitation to
the dark
to
side.
another world,
Yeah.
to the insanity.
Because I don't want the idea that like Dale heard it, because I want Dale to just believe him on faith. But he was like, I saw that look in your eyes the other day. I know that look. That's the look of a man who knows the truth.
Yeah,
Like-
Dale didn't hear the cat, but Dale is suspicious of everybody
Right.
already, so he would see him think that and go like, you're onto something.
Okay. So we have the break into Act 2. This is, I think that something we could do here, because we're like entering the new world. So the new world is the world of conspiracy theories. So I feel like Dale should give him like a slideshow now that like breaks down his current working theory for what's going on, like what the big conspiracy is, and the apartment should tie into it and like what his explanation is. I think the next clue on the list should probably be, we don't know anything about the guy who owns the apartment complex. But
Right.
what do you guys think? Like, what should be the context of this presentation?
Well, I think that Dale should both tell the full truth and actually have nailed the true conspiracy of what's going on here, and then take it a step further into Crazy Town that's obviously not true.
I get what you're saying. I think there should be at least one element of it that's wrong at a big level.
Right.
So it's like when we get the reveal later, it's like, oh, Dale he thought it was this and he was wrong, but I can see why he got it that way and he was very close. But
right.
I get what you're saying.
He's almost like Jamie Kennedy in a Scream movie, being like, yes, this is how it works, and actually nails it. Well, the difference between that and that character would be that he also goes off the deep end with it.
If the actual thing it's going to be is a cat is mind controlling people through its poop in order to like manipulate people to move into this apartment complex so it can do something great, some mysterious thing. What is his working theory that he has of what's going on? Because I don't want him to suspect the cat quite yet. I want that to be like the part that Hank brings in that's like, oh, of course, and then they like have a new avenue to go down because of, you know what I mean? Like,
so Dale doesn't see that the cat is involved, but he does know that this goes back to the reason the humans exist.
I think what it has to be is that he suspects that the owner of the apartment is the one at the center of all of this. He's put together that there's this big conspiracy to bring these different people together in a way that relates to like some primal force that dates back to the creation of life on Earth. But he thinks that the owner is at the center of it. He just can't like put that final piece together.
Right. So it'd be interesting if he like finds evidence that this owner has like lived since the dawn of time. He says like, and who is this person? Like, he's known by many names like throughout history, like that kind of thing. But his working theory that he delivers at the end of this presentation is that he's Cain from the Bible. Like that he was like cast out and given immortality reality, like, God's like, death will not touch you or whatever, you know?
Hank's like, well, what's with this weird cat? And he's like, that's just a stupid cat. What do you mean?
Right, exactly, yeah. This person who he thinks is an immortal who's lived all this time is actually all of the different owners of the cat.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't realize it yet, so yeah.
Like, the stuff he lays out about the apartment should be genuinely weird. Like, really, he could be like, I moved in here, etc., whatever time, and he's like, my neighbor's down the way, like a mysterious illness befell them. And like, all the weird shit that's happened around the apartment, and Hank could be like, that is really strange. And then by the end of it, he could be like, what does it have to do with the cat? And then he could just go full crazy and be like, talking animals are a common theme in prophecies of the end time.
Maybe Dale even knows, like, it's like Ghostbusters, the first one, where like the building itself was designed by some person who knows how to communicate with the devil, and
the terrible U-shaped architecture where everyone can look at each other serves some greater purpose. Exactly. Like, what human would ever design a building like this?
Yeah.
People can see into each other's homes. It's not right.
Yeah, he could actually bring up, I think there was an ancient structure called the Panopticon, which was a theoretical prison where it's like a perfectly round structure, and there's like a tower in the middle where the warden lives, and all of the cells face the warden's tower at the same time, so that the warden could be looking at your cell at any moment. Right. So like that, it could be like that design as well, It's
got some weird architecture.
Another like anecdote he could have is that one of the people who lives here, and this could come out maybe later, they were gonna move in a different apartment building, and then like a week before it burned down. Yeah. So they had to move here instead. Like something like that. That could be one of the things that comes out. All right, so now we are at our B story. The B story is a tonally different, lower stakes counterpart to the A story. It is oftentimes, but not always, a friendship or romantic relationship. So which of our characters do we think is like kind of underserved by this A plot, and we want to give them like a B story? Maybe Wildflower, right? I feel like...
Yeah, Wildflower, I think. We need more of that.
So, Dan, what do you think, since she was the character you brought, would be like a plot you would want to see with her as like the side plot?
I think her side plot has to be weird stuff starts happening around her, because we want to say that like superpowers are starting to develop around a certain age for people in this bloodline. And so like maybe she starts having weird things happen around her. It's sort of like in The Haunting of Hill House, where like she starts thinking, wait a minute, my dad had this like mental illness where he was convinced that he was seeing things that aren't there.
Right.
Maybe I have this mental illness now.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
So it's sort of these like minor supernatural things are happening to her, and she's trying to convince herself that they're not real.
This is like the reveal of what the story actually is, but I think we should also have like another thing that in the first scene we think is going to be her subplot, and then this keeps creeping into it. Like maybe she makes a friendship with a neighborhood kid, and you think it's going to be about this friendship between the two of them, or something like that. You know what I mean? So what do we like something like that for like the thing that like this plot is happening within?
Yeah, I mean, it could just be that like maybe she's going to school and she's like trying to make friends. Weird stuff starts happening, or like she's trying to impress a boy or a girl that she has a crush on.
Could we summer so that we can keep it all in the apartment? Because I would think it'd be fun if her friend was like another person in the apartment, one of the kids from the family or something.
The non-sociopathic one.
Yes, the non-sociopathic kid. We can make it like a girl or something like that. They're having a friendship, but then like midway through it, she starts manifesting powers, but then like also is like, oh, it's nothing. But it's about like her friendship with this girl. Also, I'm making an executive decision. It's not a friendship, it's a romance.
All right, great.
I was also thinking that would be a great way, like if the cat is mind controlling people, I imagine after these kids try to torment him, he would mind control them and their personalities would totally change.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
And then we could, it's like if she's romantically interested in their sibling who wasn't changed, that sibling would be like, something weird is happening with my brothers or whatever.
I thought it would be interesting if like, what about early on, Hank says to the little boy, like, you heard the cat talk, right? And he's like, yeah, that cat's weird, man. It's always in my room. I've heard it say so before. And he's like, and then later when like maybe the two families are hanging out together, Hank says to him again, like, tell them what you told me. And then he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And then he's like, it's a perfectly normal cat. And like, and also be great if like the boy is suddenly really well behaved now.
Yeah, like Children of the Corn style. Yeah. Like he's just like, it's a normal cat. Why would you ever say such a thing?
Yeah. All right. So now we're at fun and games. This is the part of the movie that is the movie. Whatever the high concept is, this is where we get to explore it and have fun with it in a bunch of different ways. This is where most of the trailer footage would come from. There are some ongoing problems here, but in some ways they are the surface level or fake problems relative to what is coming later. This section will typically culminate in a minor victory, which will end up being short-lived. So what are you guys thinking for the fun and games section?
Hijinks of trying to prove this cat's super intelligent when it keeps proving itself to be a fucking cat.
Yeah. Like, I think that they have to have a few kind of false starts. They try to set up a situation whereby the cat would reveal its actual intelligence level
Yes,
and
exactly.
then fail.
Like they put a math problem in front of the cat.
That's the first one, and it does not go very
doesn't
well.
work.
I think the next one would be like you're in a room with the cat and you start having a conversation about a bad thing you're going to do to the cat to see if you can get the cat to react. Like
Yes.
you're going to give it a bath or something like that. Or like,
I was even thinking all of this could culminate in Hank trying to like do what the kids were essentially going to do to the cat.
oh yeah.
Like he gets to the point where he's like,
That's fucking perfect.
Right.
Yes.
But I like the idea that like they could even say to the cat, like, there's a problem with a lot of strays in the neighborhood. I was thinking we could try to round some of them up and get them fixed. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
And then just kind of look at the cat and wait for it to flinch.
Yeah.
Like,
At some point, this cat needs to be like potentially at the vet, and somehow with its intelligence, maybe gets out of it.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting if they catch the cat and they bring it there.
Right.
And then the vet is like convinced. We actually decided not to go through with the procedure. Like
Yeah.
we decided it was
yeah.
the cat's
like
supposed
he should bring it in and be like, I just need you to tell me it's a normal cat. Like they'd be like, okay, we're gonna take it in the back and take its vitals.
And
I
then
guess?
it comes, they come out and they're like, it is a normal cat.
Yeah. I love this fast-acting toxoplasmosis that the cat's
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
inflict.
Oh, you know what we could do? We could do the reason that Hank is not mind controlled is because people in this bloodline are immune to it. And I was thinking we could do a reveal at some point that the girl that she's having the friendship with is also another member of the bloodline, and that's why her family's there. Right. So are we going to do any of the other investigating stuff where they're trying to investigate the owner of the apartment as well? And what is that going to look like? Maybe try to like break into his office or something?
Yeah, maybe there is like a suite in the apartment that like, supposedly belongs to the owner, but you never see anyone going in or out of.
Yeah, no, I like the idea that they're going in there either to like confront him or to dig up what information they can on him.
That's what I was thinking, is they're going in there to dig for information, and you could even get a goofy heist thing, like you said, like they're trying to scale the building or whatever.
They end up needing to like avoid the notice of the old woman who spies on everyone.
If we want another obstacle, we could say that the Russian guy who might be that is also like just a hired security guard who like patrols the apartment complex at times.
Yeah.
And so like they have like his patrols and they have the old lady with the binoculars and all that stuff. And like,
They draw out like this really intricate family circus style map of like the path that they need to take through the complex
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
times marked. I like the idea that like they get into the owner's apartment and they find that there is indeed like a lot of conspiracy stuff, like all these secret monitoring stations all around, blood circles where they've been doing like these arcane rituals and stuff. And they're like, this proves everything. The owner is behind all of this. But at some point they find the last owner's will and they find that no, he's actually dead. He willed this place to his cat. The cat is behind all of this.
yeah,
Yes.
they could even find the owner's dead body in here. Like,
Yes.
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
and they're like, because the thing that happens if you die and you have a cat, sometimes your cat eats your body.
Yeah.
So like, so we see he's been like picked clean by the cat, and he has like his bones have like claw marks on them and stuff.
Yeah. And there's a room full of growing catnip with like hydroponic
Oh, a
lights.
hydroponic
Yeah,
garden.
exactly,
That's so
exactly.
great. Oh, I love that. There's two ways we can go at this point, I feel like. One, we can have them know it, but the cat doesn't know that they know it. So then they're trying to like figure out who is and who's not on their side. And then the cat is onto them later. Or alternatively, the cat could like come in right now at the midpoint and be like, hello, I know everything. Because I feel like we want the next section of it to be them trying to like rally people together, and trying to sort out who is and who is not loyal to the cat, right?
I almost feel like if we have the Russian guy being the security guard, I would want him to be the one to walk in on them and him to be like, you don't know what you're dealing with.
Right.
Like you're in over your head.
I just work for this cat.
He could like capture them or something like that and be like, look, I don't want to do this to you guys, but here's your last chance. Like, stop digging and you'll get out alive. Or like, because he's like, the cat is his master too, but he has some modicum of control.
Yeah, I mean, he would either have to let them go or they would have to kill him accidentally somehow.
Or they just like escape somehow.
The more I'm thinking about
Yeah.
it too, I do like at the midpoint just going completely crazy and having the cat be like, this is the deal.
The cat appearing and like laying everything out is a very good midpoint moment. Do you guys like
Yeah.
that more? If the cat knows that he's found out, he might like just turn all of the cultists on them right now and it would just become a big fight. And I'm not
feel
ready
like
for
if it's
that
the
yet,
cat that finds them, then it immediately becomes supernatural and insane. As
Right.
the cat is like, you can't stop my plans, and like the end times are coming right now.
I feel like here or shortly after this, we need to have them try to go to someone for help, and that person ends up being a cultist, right?
I think the person that Hank needs to go to, I'm thinking is like the father in that nuclear family. Because like we've established that the two families have been spending time with each other. You know, Hank had that scene with the kid where the kid ended up being mind controlled by the cat. I feel
Right.
like Hank has had some conversations with the father.
Right.
He figures that the father is like a trustworthy guy. Maybe like the father is a cop.
Yeah, I was going to say the father should have like a job that's like an authority position,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
should seem like the straightest shooter.
He could even be like the chief of police. And so then the implication becomes Hank goes to him, realizes that the dad is mind controlled, and therefore he can't trust any police.
That's really good. I
The
like
cops
that.
are like all in on this. So it's like, it's just him and Dale that can deal with this.
Cool. So the midpoint is they get the reveal of what the deal is with the cat, that he's truly the evil one. Bad guys close in. This is the next section. So in Bad Guys Close In, the hero is trying to deal with the two problems at once, which is, in our case, trying to like figure out the mystery of what's up with this cat. Then also like the cat is evil and trying to kill them actively is the second problem. And so in Bad Guys Close In, they're trying to juggle these two problems at once, but failing to do so. They will eventually lose out, but this is like sort of an inverse of the fun and games section, but this is not fun and games. This is like dark, fucked up bad stuff. So what are the other scenes we want in Bad Guys Close In? We have, he goes to that family, oh no, we can't trust them, and has to like run out or whatever and run away from them. And then maybe he goes to tell his daughter, like, daughter, we have all this stuff that's going bad, like, you know.
I have this idea. I don't know how to implement it, but something along the lines of the cat needs to get Hank and Dale through a cat-style ropes course, where it's like they have to like walk along a mantle above a fireplace and not knock off any vases. I don't know how to implement that in this Bad Guys Close In section, but like something along the lines of like the cat playing with them.
Well, hear me out. If we could get the cat literally chasing them, so they're running from a house cat, and they end up at a construction yard next to the apartment building or something.
The south wing of the apartment is
Yeah, that-
unfinished
it's
or
not
whatever.
finished.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
They're trying to run on these beams, and this cat is chasing them on beams.
Yeah.
That could work.
All right, so they go to the family. They're no good. They maybe go to one other person. They're no good. He like gets his daughter and they're on the run and they end up running at like, oh, all the places are closed off. And they like go to this construction site and they're like kind of out on the edge and like, oh no, like, is this good for like getting to the Bad Guys Close In all his lost stuff? Or
Yeah, I could see it too, because also if we wanted Dale to be mind controlled, you would want to separate Dale and
Right.
Hank right here.
oh yeah, it'd be like Dale's like, we're getting out of here. I'm gonna get my supplies from my apartment, then we're going. And he's like, you should come with me. He's like, no, I have to go get my daughter. And he's like, fine, you go get your daughter. And so he goes and gets his daughter. And when they meet back up, like, you know, Dale's like, everything is fine. I have now seen the truth. Like, whatever, you know, that sort of
Exactly,
thing.
yeah.
And
So-
it can be the sort of thing where at this moment, all the other doors in the apartments open and like simultaneously everyone else who lives in the apartment just like walks out and all turn simultaneously to look down at Hank.
yeah.
And he realizes that he's just surrounded by all these zombies controlled by this cat.
Yeah, the cat is in full control of this building.
Those bad guys indeed closed in.
They are
right
closed
there.
in.
I think in the Bad Guys Closed In, we needed to learn what was the cat's ultimate goal.
I like the idea that maybe when they're on the beams, like on the construction site, they talk to the cat, and the cat is now speaking to them openly. It like totally drops the charade, and then he was like, "What is it? Is it because of this?" And he like explains Dale's version of the story, and then the cat's like, "No, you fool," and then explains the actual thing. So what is the actual thing?
Well, so the idea behind the Triforce is that it's an object of power which is split between three people. In this case, we could say that like the cat has one piece and Wildflower and her girlfriend have the other two pieces. And so like
Yeah.
there's this ritual that can be conducted where one of the three people can pull the other two pieces out and possess essentially perfect omnipotence and then
Right.
can like reshape the world in their image.
Right. I mean, he could even be like, you know, this has been a 2,000-year process. When you start out as a cat before the world is even connected, it's pretty hard.
Yes,
To, like,
a cat
get
in the
around.
Dark Ages, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. like only in the last a couple hundred years did this even become possible.
You know what I kind of like is that each chunk of this power gives the possessor a slightly different ability. You know, it can kind of be a little like Infinity Stones-ish. I like the idea that the cat can control minds because of the piece of power that it has.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
So each of the other two girls has a different thing that they can do that's specific in that way. You know, like maybe one of them can like control matter and then the other one can control souls or something like that.
Yeah,
You know, so you
yeah, I
have
was
like
thinking-
mind, body, and soul.
Mind, body, and soul. That's really good. I like that. Yeah. Cool. So which one of the other two controls what?
Well, I think Wildflower has to control soul because that feels like the sort of like ultimate power that you'd spring at the end or something.
That feels like the
That's
way
the
to
one you give
fix
to
the
the
mind
protagonist.
control.
Yeah.
Like you heal the soul
that's what
of
I'm thinking,
Krang
yeah.
or whatever.
What are the body powers that the other girl has?
Well, I think it's just like matter, right? It's just like she can just
Okay.
like reshape objects.
What if she's a sculptor? And she does that because she says, like, I have dreams where I'm building things with my mind. And, like, I have to, and, like, reshaping reality with my mind like it's clay. I get these visions for things that I want to build out of the world, but so I build them in clay, you know?
Can we come up with a name for the girlfriend? Just so
Sure.
we don't keep using she pronouns for two of our major characters who have very
true.
similar
That is
plot
fine.
arcs?
Smart.
How about Daisy to go with Wildflower?
Daisy.
Sure,
Sounds
yeah.
great. I
All
love
right.
it. Okay, so now we have All Is Lost. This is the moment where the hero seems to lose everything, and then they oftentimes will have a sort of dark night of the soul where they need to reflect and think about what they've done, and that theme might come in again, and they might realize the thing they need to do, or not, whatever. How does he get out of this, and where does he, like, regroup and have his moment of, like, reflection? Or does he not get out of this and he gets, like, captured or something?
I feel like he could get captured. I think his daughter and the other girls should definitely get captured in preparation for this ritual the cat's gonna do. I feel like what happens is in his Dark Night of the Soul, he like reconnects to the bloodlines of his past in a vision or something and has it all laid out for him, like the solution, who he really is, what he needs, you know what I mean? Like,
That might be too easy. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
maybe
think.
you're right.
Like, so what's our theme? Our theme is when people tell you you're wrong, you like keep
Right.
walking that path. Does that come up here? Because it doesn't feel like that's
Well-
the lesson he needs to learn right now, is it? Or like,
Well, I think it's about like maybe the cat was telling him like, you've lost now, you know, I have your daughter, I have Daisy, I have everything I need, and any future sort of attempts that you make to oppose me are just going to be useless, you know, like
yeah, he
you
even
just need to
controls
give
the
up.
police, as we've established. So yeah.
And Hank sort of has this realization where he like remembers what Dale said when he's like, sometimes the road to truth is a lonely one, but once you've found it, you have to walk it, even if you have to walk it alone. And he's like,
Right, that's really good.
I gotta walk this road alone.
Right. I like
So
that.
he's been abandoned. Everyone in the apartment building is either captured or mind controlled. The cat has like gone off to do this ritual, and Hank steals himself, looks himself in the mirror, and says, "Well, if I'm walking this road alone, then I'm gonna walk it alone."
Okay, so wait, is he being held in captivity? Is he left for dead and like injured, or like what are we doing?
You know, I kind of like the idea that the cat just takes Wildflower and Daisy and just leaves. You know, the police are in my pocket. I don't have to lock you up. There is nothing you can do.
I like the idea that, how about Hank's like up against a corner and the cat walks up to him, he's like, what are you gonna do to me? And then the cat just like pees on him.
Yes.
And then like says nothing, and then just like walks away basically.
Yes.
It's like, yeah.
Hank has this image of himself, someone that society doesn't take seriously, right? And that's kind of like reflected to some extent in the cat. Like the cat's not taking him seriously. This is his time to show what he's capable of and what he can do. So like, even though the
Exactly.
odds are against him, he's like, I'm still gonna go. Like, I'm still gonna go by myself and I'm gonna figure out a way around this.
Now we are at the break into Act 3. There's going to be another final, make another choice, cross another threshold, and enter the world of Act 3. So what is Act 3 going to be for this movie?
Well, he's made the choice at this point, right? Like, I feel like
Right,
he's
yeah.
crossed the threshold.
What is his scheme? What is his plan? What is Krang doing, and how is he going to stop it?
I feel like Krang's gonna do a blood ritual or something.
Yeah. Can we have, like, at this point, I want, like, full-on apocalyptic stuff, like skies opening up and storms coming down. Like, suddenly this movie has a budget. Like, it's been very, like, you know, but, like,
Yeah.
I want, like, giant, you know, 5-story tall demons and stuff. Like, you know, I want craziness, so.
Like, how is he going to wind up destroying the history of humanity?
That's the question. Well, I don't think he necessarily needs to. I know you want him to destroy the world
I
here.
think that, like,
but,
part of the inherent thing of the character of Hank Kingsley is that he ruins his own life by trying to make it better.
Okay.
Well, what
so,
if what he figures out, just hear me out, this is crazy, is that his daughter and everybody has to literally become the Triforce and descend to heaven for all of this to go away.
What? I kind of like the idea of Hank at this point in the movie becoming this kind of like Captain America figure where he's just like, I don't know that I have what it takes, and like I don't even really have a plan, but I'm just going to go and do what I can. And so he like goes to where the cat is conducting this blood ritual to absorb the 2 remaining pieces of the Triforce into himself. And Hank realizes at this point that Wildflower and Daisy have the potential to overpower the cat if they put their powers together, right? Like if they can combine their own forces together, the cat, even with his millennia of experience, can't oppose 2 other pieces of the Triforce.
Because he has 1 piece and then they each have 1, so they have twice the power from him if they put their powers together.
Hank's goal then comes into light, which is to win someone else over, which in this case is Wildflower. He's trying to convince her that she needs to use this power inside of her, you know?
I know you really like this character and these things about him, Jeff, but a suggestion I might have is like, he could learn a lesson, which is like, he wants everyone to think that he's cool, and then he needs to realize like, the point of being a dad is not making your child think that you're cool. It's like setting them up for success and then getting out of the way. And not like, you don't need to put your fingerprints on them and you don't need them to see that you're cool.
Yeah,
you know
that's the actual lesson
like,
that character should learn.
Right. So you want him to not learn the lesson and fail terribly in the world all
that's
dies.
part of the inherent nature of that character, at least in the Larry Sanders Show, is that he'll never actually learn that. But
but this is not a sitcom. There is no return to continuity. This is a movie.
This is not a sitcom. There's an actual progression and an understanding and growth that the character goes through. Are you okay with? I am cool with it. I'm into Hank Kingsley learning something.
Okay.
But I like the idea of the cat being like, he sees Hank approaching in the middle of this blood ritual and is just sort of saying like, you can't do anything. I told you already. I have all the power. You have none of the power. Mm-hmm. And Hank says, you know, you're right. I have none of the power. And then he points at Daisy and Wildflower and says, but they have plenty between them.
Maybe at this point, like the power is sort of being shared between them or in some way, because I want Krang to start to turn into like a big demon form. You know what I mean? He's got to like start like beefing up into a big monster or summoning monsters or something like that.
He's got to turn into like first the pig Ganon and then the whatever one is after that usually, and then finally he's just a dude.
Okay, so yeah, we'll say that he says like, I will reveal to you my true form, and like the cat's a disguise, and he's not at his full power, but he can choose to transform into like a big scary demon monster.
And as you said, if it could, you know, you want the sky opening up and stuff, like the end of Ghostbusters, they're in the apartment building and like lightning is hitting the 4 corners of whatever where they're going to do the blood ritual. You know, it's all like around where they are could be completely like, you know, reality is shattering and he's changing and all of that. I can see how.
Right. And then so he starts turning into like a big scary monster. And then I like the idea that Wildflower would use her powers to like counteract the mind control by like tapping into the souls of the people. Mm-hmm. And so like they're able to break free. Maybe he gets physically opposed or like the soul power also kind of holds Krang back or like slows him down a little bit and like makes him a little bit off his game. And then he's physically opposed by Daisy using her matter powers, right? Like like throwing stuff at him.
You know what I love is Daisy uses her matter powers to like create this giant warrior, and then Wildflower like infuses it with the soul of a warrior.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And then
so
like
great.
that combination is able to take down giant demon Krang.
Oh, Dan, we get a kaiju fight at the end of this movie.
Yeah,
I was
we
not
do.
expecting that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, oh no, I like the apartment building itself gets brought to life. It gets like reshaped into a warrior to fight him.
That could also give, once the mind control is over, that could give Hank and Dale one last piece of business to do if they have to get into this shifting apartment building or whatever and stop some, I don't know, device or some, or even if it isn't like going in to stop a device or whatever, but like save people who are around. Like, I feel like we got to give them something to do while the girls fight.
I think it could be fun if they're in the apartment building as it's shifting around. The girls don't realize they're in the apartment building, and there's a few people who inside who are hiding who the cat actually hasn't mind controlled. Like maybe the overly sexual spiritualist couple or the old lady.
Oh yeah, bring them back.
I actually think it should be the old lady because she should be just like a massive asshole to Hank as he's trying to save her life. And she's like, I'm fine, get me out of here. He's like, the walls are closing. Like this place is turning into a giant megazord. You have to get out of it. Like,
That's beautiful.
So yeah, anything else in the finale? How is the guy eventually defeated? What does it look like when the Krang demon is defeated by the giant, apartment building or whatever?
Well, so we've established that like there's a big tower in the center of the apartment. I like the idea that like the big warrior kaiju picks up the tower and uses it like a spear and just like stabs the giant demon with it.
That's a fun visual.
That's so great. I love that.
The other question is, when he dies, where does his power go to? Does the Triforce like really come together for a moment, and like the two girls and Krang like consult as higher beings and they like sentence him to oblivion, or I don't know. I mean, like once all three come together, you would expect some kind of like
something occurs.
Really, yeah.
Maybe it's the next level of human evolution, like some kind of 2001: A Space Odyssey thing.
The cat is in space.
It's like
a little kitten in a bubble floating in space.
Yeah. A more simple version is he even is saying like, you can never kill me. Like he turns back into a cat and is like crushed under rubble, but is still like talking shit. And then the building can pick him up and literally throw him into space.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great if it's a callback to the catapult at the beginning where he gets like flung by the tail. What happens to the mind powers? They get thrown into the sun.
Well, I kind of like the idea that like once the mind part of the Triforce is removed from the cat, the other two are able to leave their human hosts and they sort of like just depart the world back to heaven or something like that.
I do kind of feel like we should maybe end the supernatural with the, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So how about it's like, now that the evil is defeated, the powers which had been hiding in normal people come out and they see like these three glowing figures that are like weird, magic goddess things that were hiding in them. And they're like, now that the demon guy is not there and he's been destroyed, we can return to our plane because it's been purged of evil now that he is gone, whatever.
Yes, exactly. And all of this can like even maybe barely make sense to the people watching it. And then it just suddenly ends and they're like, whoa.
And Dale's like, I knew it.
Yeah, exactly. That would be amazing if the three pieces of the Triforce like said something that was a really weird throwaway line that Dale had said earlier about like the nature of the universe, and he just looks ecstatic.
Yeah, it's like the best moment of his life. He's like, it's all been confirmed.
It'd be fun if they invented some really mundane
like the paperclip or something.
What about glue? Yeah, like they figured out how to make like animal fat and whatever the hell you do to make glue.
Like Dale could even be like, no one ever they always talk about the wheel and metal forging, but they never discuss adhesive. Why is that?
Adhesives is what made it all possible.
If you look at the history leading up to the invention of adhesives, it makes no sense. There was no precedent for it. It required multiple technological leaps at once.
I love that.
So now we're at the closing image. We have this is another snapshot of what the characters' lives are like now that the story is over. They're in a new sort of status quo, and we see how everybody ended up. So their apartment turned into a kaiju. Here's some alternatives. Option 1, it turns back, and it's perfectly normal. Option 2, they're now living in a giant, man kaiju that's, sitting there. That's a new apartment building shaped like a dude. Or, it blew up or something, and they're moving into a new apartment building at the other side of town that's, a normal apartment building. You know what I mean? So
I want to go for option 2.
Yeah,
I think they live in a giant man. I can't see any reason to choose one of the other ones.
Seriously.
I like the image of Hank is hosting a big get together with all the people that live in the apartment. Wildflower and Daisy kiss, and Dale comes up and throws an arm around Hank's shoulder, and everyone is hanging out. And then you just zoom out and you see that they're just sitting in a giant dude.
Yeah.
Roll credits.
All right, so that is it. All we need to do now is come up with a title for this thing. What are you guys thinking as a title for this movie?
I feel like it needs to center around the paranoia aspect of it. The sense of there's this cat that's after me, or there's this giant conspiracy that I'm in the middle of.
I'm looking up cat idioms.
Like the man who knew too much. Or
how many lives? Are there 9 of them? I don't know.
Yeah.
Cat got your tongue.
Yeah.
Oh, what about cat's paw?
Interesting.
That's a term for a pawn. Someone who's being used as a pawn is a cat's paw.
I could see that on the Thriller poster of it. Just it's called, even if you don't know what it means exactly.
You mean Michael
really
Jackson's Thriller poster?
Well, it's not what I meant, but
all right. I think we're settling on cat's paw. Are you guys okay
cat's
with that?
Cat's paw is good. I'm good with that.
All right, so cat's paw it is. Cool. So one last time, let's talk a little bit about your podcast. As I said, it's called No One Can Know About This. It starts off just being people playing Final Fantasy and recording every step of the process, and then they edit it back down into a good sort of audio documentary of the process of playing Final Fantasy. But along the way, there's a bunch of dumb stuff that you talk about that is wonderfully entertaining. Like all the stuff about mazes, for instance, as an example. You start having a conversation about like the dungeons you're in are very maze-like. What is a maze? In much like is a hot dog a sandwich type like taxonomical discussion. Like is it a maze if you can do other things while you're inside of it? Is a shopping mall a maze? Like etc. And you'd think, that's funny. That's where it ends. But no, because like the next season, you guys buy a book of mazes and start doing mazes because you want to answer the question: can you get better at mazes by doing them more?
Yeah.
And like, do mazes make you smarter? Like, should adults do mazes, etc.?
Like, maybe we should do more mazes. But yeah,
we will.
We really think that every philosophical conundrum has a worthy like end point.
Yeah.
Like if you dig into absolutely any stupid idea, you'll find worthwhile things while you're doing it. So that's one of the underlying sort of ideas, I guess.
Yeah.
I appreciate your dedication to that because I think like I would get that idea and be like that, oh no, that's dumb, I shouldn't do that. But then like you do it and I'm like, that's dumb. And then you keep doing it, I'm like, that's really great. I'm glad you kept doing it. Like,
well, that's really meaningful to us because like, you know, we're just in our own apartment like going like, what's funny? What do we find interesting? And yeah, we're trying to pursue that.
And if anyone who's played Final Fantasy knows, a lot of it is downtime.
Yeah.
So we're just sitting around for hours.
I mean, that's the thing is that,
a lot of airspace to
we
fill in.
record for so long that like we wind up cutting out huge pauses, but then like you find those conversations that you have like in the middle of a grind session. We try to turn the pain of experiencing these games, which like we feel thoroughly, and we record for like so long that we forget that it's recording and it's just like us hanging out, and then we try to turn those into experiences that like feel relatable to people, as far as the experience of playing with your friends and, you know, like experiencing one of these games that's like super hard to do, but like you're doing it with your best friend. And
I mean, we'd also like to bend your minds a little bit into like a place of just where you're thinking strange things,
questioning your own life, you know, based on the questions that we've asked ourselves.
So yeah, where can people find it?
If you search No One Can Know About This in your podcast player, you can find it. We're at NoCat Podcast. That's NOCKAT at gmail.com, or on Twitter and Facebook. You can find us easily. Just No One Can Know About This, a podcast where we play every Final Fantasy.
Time for the kid thanks. Over to Twitter, thank you to Vander Turner, Deborah John, Robert Ramsey, Jeff Rick Present, Jeff Stormer, A Rake Jake makes Drake egg for Slake Steak. Wait, damn, boy, how do you not fit all this in? Doesn't Twitter have like a cap on how many things?
Not for him, I guess.
Really not. Cool Down Now, Sid Rabbit, Florian, Icon Jade, Cosplay Devotee, Alexander, 3 Owls in a Trench Coat, and Cosplay Fiend. Over to Tumbles, thank you to Secretly a Skeleton, Fat Blunt 69, and Sid Rabbit Blog. And on Facebook, thank you to Jeffrey Ketchum and Adam Mayo.
Yeah, and thanks again to you guys. You guys were amazing guests. You were absolutely naturals at this, and we would love to have you back on at some point.
We'd love to be on again at some point. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Collaboratory. Next week, Bahamut versus Smog versus Draco versus Trogdor.
Smash Metafiction is produced by Dan Mulcairn, with logo design by Claire Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, The Builder.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
The real question to me is, what is the post-credit sequence that sets up the sequel?
I
You know what I mean?
The cat floating in space.
Yeah,
like,
the cat floating
Yeah.
in space, plotting. Someday
No.
I'm gonna fall back to Earth.
The cat gets found by the ISS and like
Oh,
brought
yes.
on.
Oh,
and then they're like,
yes.
that's weird. There was like a cat and it's like alive in space.
Oh
That's
my
so strange.
God.
And then it poops in the corner and it's like, ah, ha, 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 ha.